Hello, everyone. Namaste, willkommen, welcome, bienvenue, benvindo, benvenuto, and willkommen again. In case you're wondering if I speak all these different languages, no, I don't. I'm reading from this because I thought it would be interesting. Welcome, everyone, to episode 9 of the Focus. The focus of this week's show is SEO in video, and with me, my very special guest today is the inestimable, the magnificent Mr. Jim Stroud. Let's give it up for Jim. Jim, how the devil are you?
I'm the devil fine. How are you?
I'm outrageously good. So last week, just before we get into the show itself, last week we had, as my very special guest, Boden Pollard. Boden Pollard is head of customer success with Video My Job. And customer success gets almost no praise when, to be honest, they probably keep the wheels running in lots of organizations, and they certainly do in ours. And we were talking about planning strategies for success with video, setting expectations, goals, reaching milestones, and of course setting a culture for regular video production. Lots of companies, they tinker with it, they play with it, they get around to it when they can do, but they never really get anywhere. And of course, that's what we were talking about last week, actually making that progress to making it a regular thing and being part of the setup of your organization. So back to today, as I say, our guest is the magnificent Jim Stroud. Jim is a pioneer of video and recruitment. Jim is not only classically trained in cinematography and filmmaking, as if you couldn't guess that already. Actually, it was a surprise to me. I knew that Jim made a shed load of videos, but it turns out he has the paperwork to go along with the jobs, which is obviously really handy. But Jim, you've been sourcing candidates online since 1997. With companies like, let's just check, I want to get this right, MCI, Siemens, Google, Microsoft, and podcasting and video casting since, certainly as early as I could find is 2008, but it must be earlier than that.
I was podcasting since 2000, 2002, I think it was. Then I was doing video since 2008, online video, that is, right?
Yeah. So the rest of us think we're clever if we're doing video now. For you, frankly, I'm not saying it's passé, but it's not new. You've been at this for some time.
Yeah. I think I first got the bug for video when I was in high school. We had this program where if you were a senior and you completed most of your hours anyway, you could get a job for the last couple hours of the day, Yeah. And so I got a job at a public access TV station. Mm-hmm. And that's when I really got into learning how to do video and that kind of stuff. And I said, this is cool. I'll go to school for this. This is really, really nice. So that's where I first got the bug for it.
And you got credits for that, and then you went on to study that at college.
Yeah, Georgia State. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so at that time, were you thinking, I'm going to make a career of being a filmmaker?
My college career was interesting because I actually changed majors 3 times. I went in initially to be a theater major because I thought I wanted to be an actor, right?
Okay.
And then when I got into the classes and they said, be a tree. And I'm like, be a tree? Like, no, that's stupid. And I said, I don't want to do that. So then I returned to start doing more film and video stuff. And I started producing short films and music videos and exercise shows and that kind of stuff. And then a friend of mine called me into his office and said, check this out. He pressed a few buttons. Yeah. And then on the screen, a picture of a woman in a bikini popped up. I said, what's that? He said, that's the internet. I said, whoa, that's the internet. That's cool. Right. So then I said, well, maybe I'll switch to computer science because I see this internet thing is really hot. Mm-hmm. But by then my parents were like, you know what, we're out of money. So the rest is on you. I said, okay. So I started working, doing research for a law firm for a law firm. And that sort of got me into research. Uh-huh. And then after doing that for a while, I got this job at MCI doing the sourcing, which allowed me to put all of my different skills to work, the research and the video and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So the people often refer to sourcing as a relatively new thing or a thing that came after recruitment right up to, say 2010, suddenly everyone's a sourcer, or there's armies
Right.
all over.
Right.
But sourcing essentially is detective work, and the internet means that you can carry out that detective work with a whole raft of tools that were never available before. So you getting into sourcing way back then, I think I built my first website about 97, 98.
Okay.
And I did it by, I found a recruitment agency in Fresno, and I'd also discovered a Microsoft front page. And what you could do is
I remember that.
You could download someone else's website, change the logos, and then upload it to your domain, and suddenly, ta-da, you had a website, which is great. But you, in terms of interest in the technology, when you're using sourcing techniques at the very beginning of the internet and seeing the nuts and bolts of how the internet goes together, there would be obviously far fewer sites to be going through then. Was there anything remotely resembling video at that time? Because the bandwidth must have been
No, video wasn't a thing. Wasn't a thing back then. It was I remember a company that was well ahead of its time. I doubt anybody here remembers them or heard of them, but it was a company called DEN, which stood for Dynamic Entertainment Network.
Yeah.
And they were Netflix 2 decades before Netflix was around. And so they were making short videos, like YouTube length videos of different types of shows, teenage shows, music shows, whatever. And they had them all posted on their site. But because the bandwidth issues and everybody didn't have the hardware to really enjoy it, it ground itself to a halt, and it just sort of disappeared, But if they had persevered or the technology was ready, they would have been the Netflix of the day, because they were doing it way before Netflix was, just that they were ahead of the technology. So, video was not a thing then.
I remember about 2000, 2001, there were a few, obviously there was a big boom at the time, there were a few websites that relied on really advanced, for that time, technology and the ability to show videos and 3D stuff and so on. I think there was a website called boo.com. It got loads of investment, but people just had not caught up with the technology. The bandwidth wasn't there. The broadband wasn't there. People didn't have smartphones. There was no such thing as a smartphone. And so the ideas were, but the tech wasn't. So in the evolution of video and recruitment in all this time, you've obviously, in terms of knowing about video and watching how fast things can catch up with the tech, have you been waiting for everyone else to catch up all this time?
Well, I wouldn't say wait for everybody to catch up. It's been interesting to see how things have evolved over time. That's for sure. I'm gonna name a few other things that people, if they're millennials, maybe they definitely don't know about it, and some of the people in my generation may not know about it. But I remember being excited when I first saw YouTube for the first time and thinking, "Wow, this is awesome! I can't believe it's free. This is great." I remember Microsoft thinking the same thing, and they had a product called Soapbox, which was a YouTube competitor. I don't know if do you remember that?
I remember it. Yeah.
Okay. I think you and I may be the only ones. But I remember when they were competing with YouTube and several others, and a lot of them have fallen off. Unfortunately, some are still struggling on, but I thought that was really interesting, and I thought that was really important. And I also thought was important when I first started doing videos was the flip video. I don't know if you remember the flip camera, but
I've never heard of that, but you mentioned that. What exactly is the flip camera?
Yeah, the flip camera it was like a white box. It was about maybe this big, maybe like 4 inches high and 2 inches wide. And it had one red button, one button to start recording and one button to shut off. And that was like the hottest toy or hottest gadget for like 3 or 4 years. And eventually it was bought by Cisco and it disappeared, but it was the hottest thing. And I remember doing a lot of video experiments with that flip camera. Some of my earlier videos, like when we were promoting the SourceCon conference, that is what I used to make a lot of those videos. That flip camera, which cost about like, I think $80, pretty cheap, like $80. So I did that. And that was quite an evolution there. And it was around that time that I started to see more videos on YouTube. When it came to recruiting, though, and this is like around 08, 09, 2010, When it came to recruiting videos back then, the only recruiting videos that I remember seeing were either military, because the military was always, I mean, they're on it.
They've got the budget.
Yeah, they got the budget and their little experiments. So the military were only recruiting videos out there. And then you had some colleges out there doing recruiting videos, but that was more or less from a sports perspective.
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to be a football player for a school or something, they'll put a video together to get the attention of an agent. But as far as corporate, they were very, very few. They were out willing to take a chance and put something out there. It wasn't until maybe between 2012, 2015, somewhere in there, I started seeing more and more video. Well, not 2015. More like around 2010, 2012, I started seeing more corporate style videos out there. And when I did see those videos, a lot of them were like cringeworthy. You know, because I'm like, oh, this is so boring. You know, it was obviously scripted. It was obviously, you know, went under a rigorous process of saying, you know, say exactly this, don't say that, toe the corporate line, and it was boring and they weren't effective. But there were some I remember back then that were very daring and really took a chance and knocked it out the park. Yeah, I was mentioning one of these to you earlier when we were in the green room, and I'll send you the link. Matter of fact, I'll post the link. I'll grab the link and I'll post it. But there's this video that was produced 12 years ago. I went to look it up yesterday because I was really curious to see how it's doing now. But back in the 90s, there was this phenomenon called lip dub, right? Where people would play a song and they would just sing over the song as if it was them actually singing the song, but they really weren't. So there was this creative agency. They did a lip dub of the song called Flagpole Sitter by this guy called Harvey Danger. And basically, it's a bunch of people in the office just sort of singing and dancing around, lip singing to this song. And it was a huge viral sensation. It was popular on Vimeo, which is the link I sent it to, but also was popular on YouTube and that kind of thing. So long story short, as of now, 12 years later, they have, at least on one channel, 2.8 million views, 66,424 hearts, and over 1,000 comments and shares, that kind of thing.
Wow.
And but what I like, the thing I like about secondarily, first I love the video. What I like about it is that so simply in the video description, it said, we did this video one night after work. We are a company called Connected Ventures, a group of friends who work for Vimeo, College Humor, Busted Teeth, and Defunker, and we're hiring. Here's a link to our career page. Such genius, so simple. Didn't cost any money.
Simplicity thing. So and also that would be before smartphones. And so someone's filmed this on maybe a GoPro type camera. They've taken the memory stick, they've stuck it into the computer, they've uploaded it. And it's completely authentic. I'll when we get to the video reviews, I'll have a quick recap on that.
Sure.
So you were talking about corporate videos and corporate polish videos. When companies are getting a team of videographers in, and they've got the really glossy, with the background music and the wide panning shot across the forecourt of the the company, and of course the chief executive coming out to say whatever. And those videos, they don't give any clue about the organization, but the authenticity of videos. Authenticity of videos really stepped up a huge chunk as soon as people had one of these. And of course you could record videos before iPhones, but iPhones really popularized things. So iPhones, I would say, made YouTube, and of course then all the other smartphones. And YouTube, by extension, is now probably the biggest pusher of sales of iPhones, because people are now consuming immense amounts of videos on one of these little boxes. And you can be lying in bed, you can be in the car, you can be anywhere, and you're watching TV shows, you're watching Netflix, you're watching videos that people have made of themselves doing daft things as they do. And of course, you can be watching recruitment videos. So the purpose of the talk today, we could blather about history forever, and we'll do that another time. But the purpose of today is to talk about SEO in video. And to set the scene, how do you define SEO when it comes to video content? What do you mean by SEO in video?
Sure. SEO stands for search engine optimization. So you want, when someone does a search for whatever keyword, you want your video to appear high in the search results.
Yeah.
So one example that I can give of this, and I would like to say it was all strategically planned, brilliantly executed, but if I'm being honest, it was a happy accident. If someone were to go, and I invite all the listeners to do this search on Google.
At the same time as people doing that, I'm going to share my screen so people can see.
Okay. Yeah. So do a search on Google for Microsoft Canada Development Center. I'll say again, Microsoft Canada Development Center. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the search results, in the search results, there will be a video thumbnail. Mm-hmm. And that video thumbnail will lead to the video that Stephen has on the screen. And you'll see, there you go. So scroll, there it is right there. So you see that video. So someone does a search for Microsoft Canada Development Center, which is the center that I was recruiting for when I was on the Microsoft International Recruiting team.
Yeah.
So basically what we were doing, we were trying to find every software engineer in the world, literally, and getting them interested in working for Microsoft.
Yeah.
So what I did was I went around and I walked around that facility with my flip camera. And I said, basically, in 30 seconds or less, what do you like about working here? Go. And they said, I had hair back then.
Didn't we all?
Yeah. And I said, basically, what's it like to work here? Mm-hmm. And if you watch the video, they'll say, it's great. It's wonderful. You can tell that these are not actors. You can tell that none of this is scripted. Basically, I just walked around and talked to people. And this video, I don't know, what's the view count on this right now?
89,534.
Yeah. Okay. So that is 89,000 targeted views. People who watch this video are people who had an interest in working for Microsoft at that particular facility. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to know what's it like to work there. They wanted to know what the office culture was like. They wanted to know who the people were. Yeah. And I just walked around and showed it with an $80 flip camera, And so I did that back in 2008. I think, is that that's the age of it, right? It wasn't like 2008.
January 2008.
Yeah. So since 2008, when people have been wondering what's it like to work for Microsoft at that particular facility, that video is there. Mm-hmm. That's the value of video SEO. Yeah. You get to target passive candidates for years, and this is the most important part, for free. Now, Microsoft isn't paying me anymore for this video. I wish they did, but that's it. Now, someone asked a question. Oh, Marvin. Hey, Marvin. That's a question. Has anything changed? I wonder, people still seeking the same information. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. But that would be a good reason why to put in the video description. Click a link to check out our career video, or maybe click a link to go to a special landing page where they can get even more updated information.
So if I'm looking at this from and I know SEO expert, but from my perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong, SEO is about getting more traffic than your content deserves. Now that sounds a bit cynical, but if I had a website and my competitor had a website that had essentially the same content on it because we were in the same line of work, then I would want my website to come up higher in the search results than his. Now, he might be a better company with better content on his website, but if I think cleverly, then I can make sure that my website appears before his in the search results by clever use of SEO. So it's basically competing in terms of search engines and getting more traffic than you deserve, or at the very least, the traffic that you do deserve, and not being left behind. So from an SEO point of view, so if I'm looking at the description here, the first thing I'm thinking is, well, the title, Microsoft's Canada Development Center, you've got what's right in there. It's been seen a lot, so that must be a factor in it being brought up again, because people are searching, they're finding, they're clicking. And if they watch to the end of this video, then that would tell Google, as Google owns YouTube, that would tell Google that people have watched and enjoyed this video. If everyone left after the first few seconds, then I'm sure that would affect its ranking.
Correct.
Also, in the description, Microsoft Recruiter, well, that tells them that you're an authority of whatever, and then you've got an email address in there, you've got C+, and you've actually got your email address twice. So I don't know if that helps from a keyword stuffing perspective. We get C and C++ programming, and we can see that over on Videolytics on the right, we've got obviously got the summary on the number of views. The video's tags appear 4 times in the title and description, which is obviously good. Lots of views, lots of subscribers. There's only 2 videos from this account, and as you say, with that specific search, when someone searches for that term, the first video that comes up in the search results is this, and that's a video that we would have to say, in today's terms, that's obviously quite out of date. I would imagine that development center has been updated manyfold since then, and they could probably have produced more up-to-date videos in that time. But this is still coming up at the top of the search results because.
Well, I got a couple of guesses as to why it still comes up high there and has been. One may be that this video was posted on Microsoft's blog itself. When I was working at Microsoft, I was on their blogging team. So I posted videos and articles, things like that. So this video is on the Microsoft site as well, at least when I posted it. I assume it still is. So that goes to the authority of it as well. This is a video about Microsoft on a Microsoft site. So that's an aspect as well. And then also the first mover advantage, I think, is part of this as well. Because although there may be other videos out there talking about Microsoft Canada, and if you were to do a search go back to the Google search and click on videos, you'll see other videos about Microsoft Canada Development Center. But mine is there first, and I think that could be a first mover advantage. Mine was the first one out there. It's got a lot of likes, got a lot of comments. People are linking to it. Therefore, it's getting a lot of social validation as well. So I think that sort of feeds into the algorithm as well.
So when coming back to everyone else producing videos that you hope will be coming up at the top of search results, I'll unshare the screen for a minute. What would be your key recommendations in terms of the things to consider to include either within the video, in the description below the video, with any URLs that we share, or indeed the title of the account on which it's shared?
I would caution people not to think too much like a computer, because it's like, okay, should I have the right keywords here, that kind of thing to trigger it. Think more like a human being, because Google is really good at trying to spot those clickbait kind of links, and then you get punished for that in the results. So think like a human being and think, okay, what is the type of information that is of value to the person I want to attract? And one sort of way to do that is start typing it on Google, and you'll see Google will give you suggestions, like what is Java something, whatever. And it'll give you 4 or 5 different suggestions based on the search history of the users. So from that, you can say, okay, people are searching a lot for this question or this type of information. Let me create a video that fits that suggestion, because I know by virtue of Google suggestions that this already is an audience out there for that. I also would go to a site like Quora, which is Quora.com, which is a question and answer site. And I would type in a certain keyword, like say Java developer. And I think what I'm doing is answering AK's question. He's saying, how can a third-party recruiter leverage this video? Go over to, hey, AK, by the way. Go over to Quora, Quora, look at the most popular questions related to a keyword, develop videos around that question. Because what will happen is that if someone has a question, say they are a Java developer, for example, and they don't know how to do something, they may or may not ask their coworker for advice on how to do something, because they don't want to seem inadequate or not highly skilled. They certainly wouldn't go to their manager, because the manager would say, well, that's what I hired you for, So what they'll do is they'll do research. They'll go to YouTube, they go to Google and try to find an answer. So imagine they're trying to figure out, how do I build this widget in Java? And when they do that search, your video pops up. And when the video starts to play, it'll say, hey, this video brought to you by this company. Go to our career site for more opportunities. And now here's how you build a widget in Java, that kind of thing. That's the best way, I think, to leverage the video. You'll get SEO coverage that way, because people are looking for it. and you'll be targeting your audience, and you'll be targeting your audience for years, because once the video is up there, unless something really amazing comes out after you, it's going to be there for a while.
So when I think of SEO, I think about it in a kind of 3D matrix of information. There's all the information that's to hand, and there's all the information that's not necessarily in your video, but will be in related videos that are similar to, have similar titles. If people are viewing those videos lots and your video is brand new, then if it's similar to theirs, then your video is going to be promoted on, video.
You know what?
For example,
I have a trick for that. All right.
Yeah.
This is just between us and your audience.
Everyone wants to keep this a secret.
Right. Go on YouTube and just build a playlist of videos that are similar to yours, but ideally videos that don't compete with you. So maybe not a direct competitor's video, but let's say you're building, you put together, you're trying to recruit Java developers. So create a playlist that says, this is the best Java developer Q&A list or something, I don't know, right? Yeah. And then you put in your video first at the top, so it's the first video they see. Yeah. And then put in other videos that don't compete with you. Maybe there are other how-to videos from a book or something like that, and it's just not a competitor. And those videos in the playlist, and then you put your video in there a second time, telling people to come to your site. So that way, when people are looking for that information, not only will they see the video, see your video, but they also see the playlist, and maybe they'll click on the playlist, and now that you have two opportunities for someone to see your video. And even if your video isn't all that great, because it's part of a playlist of other videos, you still increase the chances of your video being seen because those other videos are good on the list. Yeah, that makes sense.
I always think that one of the best ways to find out about someone, I used to say, if I could, when we were kids and you would look through someone's record collection and you'd think, there's Chuck Berry, Little Richard, this, that, and the other, and you think, I'm dating this as if I was born in the 40s, but no. When you check out someone's record collection,
did you say Chuck Berry?
Well, I would. But Kid Dortmund and Donnie and Marie. But you might look at some collection and you would assess the personality based on whether they had good taste in music. Flip forward, 40 years, and you might look through someone's iPhone and you would see the music that's on there. But equally, if you went to someone's YouTube account and looked at the playlist that they'd built, the likes that they'd made, the videos that they'd liked, I think a cross section of that would give you a real insight as to what they're about. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that the things that you like from your account, the things that you put into playlists from your account, they obviously tell people who are looking at you personally. But if you're an organization, then it tells Google or YouTube that these things are connected, that there's a link there. It's a bit like a backlink. So when you're building that mesh of information about what you're doing, what you like, and so on, then it works in reverse as well and affects SEO. The other more obvious things from an SEO point of view are, yes, the name of the account, the link that you link to in the description. If you put a URL in there, if you have a transcript of the content that you're talking about in the description, then for two reasons, that's really good from an accessibility point of view. There are stats that show high levels of people who watch videos are doing so with the sound either turned down or off together. And if you've got a transcript in there, that means that well, A, people can understand what you're talking about, and B, it can be indexed from an SEO point of view. If you can, then obviously having subtitles is great, and subtitles of any kind that are text overlaid with the video, then Google's going to be reading that, so that Google can then read that information. And of course, any comments, any likes that you get, any discussion, and any connection to other videos in your archive of videos. So if you build up an archive of videos where there are lots of videos about similar topics, if you're a company in a particular industry, then each of those builds your authority in that industry.
And I like your suggestion about the transcription, for that definitely will help SEO. But I also like it because if you have a video transcribed, and you can I think with Google you can have that transcription in a different language. So if you're recruiting globally, that's a really big boom to you. Marvin Smith, he threw out this question. If I could jump out there, he said, It is said by 2020, 80% of web content will be video. How do you prepare for that state of things? One thing that I've noticed that a lot of people are doing are these little newsy videos where it's a news report, but it's basically a graphic of text over pictures, that kind of thing. You know, I would say that if you have videos that they give people a chance to sort of read it without playing it first. Or just they get a really good idea what's it about without actually turning the sound on, because I know like on Facebook, a lot of people play videos that are silently. And unless they're doing something really crazy on the video, you may pass it. But if you have words on the screen at the bottom, you know, that could be something that will attract someone's attention. So I would think along those lines, because there's so much videos out there. Everyone is going to look at a video all the way through, but they will at least scan the first few moments. It's almost like looking at a resume. You know, you look at a resume for like 3 or 4 seconds and you decide if you're going to go to the next one. I think video is going to be the same way. Catch your attention in the first 5 seconds. And one way you can do that is having like, you know, words at the bottom.
I see Carrie Collier on the right is talking about, you know, Gen Z knowing video before a phone conversation. I always find that when you see people under the age of 25, they don't even know how to hold a phone. So they'll hold a phone like this. Rather, they don't know that this part goes to your ear. So they're holding it as if they're on an episode of The Apprentice. It's the weirdest thing, seeing people walking down the street on a phone conversation, and they don't know that you can do this. That's
interesting.
And that's because they've not had a landline telephone. They've not had something that can actually pick up and
they probably think that every phone has the AirPod. Like, you know, those, have you seen these AirPods without the wires?
And it's not that it's a bad thing. And in fact, in the real scheme of things, it's not their problem, it's our problem. You know, if we need to a degree accommodate how anyone is using these devices. One last thing on SEO. Tell me your opinion on this. If I was looking to have my video found, if I'd made a great video, I've done everything that I think I should do, would it be a good idea to run the type of searches that I want to be found on and find, well, what's being found for those searches? If it was for a job, for a Java developer or a truck driver. I saw your truck driving video just yesterday. If I carry out a search and find out which videos are coming up at the top of the search results and what are they doing to get found and replicate some of that, would you recommend that as a good way of going to take inspiration from how other people are doing it with their videos?
Yes, because it'll help you with SEO purposes, you know, get your video ranked. But also it will, at least on Google, help you in terms of being seen in the related video section. So if you're watching a video on truck drivers, whatever, on the right-hand side of the other videos. So if you're using similar keywords that are in the description of the video you're focused on, if you can look at their tags and see how they've tagged it, then in a very real way, you could say, okay, I see how my competitor is promoting their video. Let me use similar words and phrases in a similar style so that when someone look at my competitor, my video will pop up on the right-hand side, so my competitor can help me recruit.
Would it be a good to put the name of your competitor somewhere in the script so that it gets picked up? Would that be a bad thing?
That might penalize you after a while, besides being bad form. That might penalize you.
So I'm cognizant of the time. I'm going to share my screen again. We're going to move on to the section where we're talking about videos of the week. Now, this is the lip dub video that you were mentioning earlier on. And again, from 2008, you can see, I'll keep the volume down on this, but you can see it's a whole lot of fun. And clearly, they've got the organization all involved in it, and they've not dressed up, they've not fancied the place up, but they've thought about it in advance, and it's clearly really authentic. You can see why that would go viral. It does help that they're obviously connected with Vimeo, so obviously they've got people in there who have thought, yeah, we need to do a video, but it's great. I really like it. We looked briefly at the video that you had from 2008. And on the links on the side, you'll see some of the other videos that I picked out for this week. I'll keep the volume down on this little, but just make this a bit bigger. This video here, to an extent, well, first of all, can I just go back there? often what you see in these videos is you don't see the mention of the company until later on. They mention it pretty early. There was one we had a couple of shows ago where that was the case. I think it was for Fiverr. They didn't mention the name of the company until the end. But I really like the style of this video. It's cut and it's fast and loose, but it's also it's mucking about with the format. Now this is clearly not someone on their smartphone, but in terms of taking inspiration from this, you could see a video like this and think, do you know, I could put together quite a lot of the elements that we could patch together that would make this style of video that's not taking itself too seriously. And when we get to the end, and it's a spoof video on a really polished film with fancy shots.
If you have a budget for it, if you have the budget for doing this kind of thing, what I would suggest to do something that the Navy is doing. Again, the military is always on the cutting edge of recruiting.
Yeah.
So I posted the link over here in the comment section. But basically what the Navy is doing is that they are reaching out to YouTube influencers, people who already have an established following, and they teamed up with them. And so one of the videos they did, I saw, was the egg drop, where they have people design a safe way to drop an egg down the side of a ship. And so it was sort of comical, but as they're doing the video, the guy's talking to him, says, "Oh, so you're in the Navy. What do you do?" "I do this, that, and the other." "Oh, wow, you did that out of college?" "Yeah." So they're making small talk. So they're gradually recruiting people, and they're reaching the audience because the YouTube influencer, their audience is the total audience that they want to attract. So you have the budget for it. Find some influencers and ask them to do videos around your brand.
I'm just having a quick peek at comments because we're live streaming on Facebook as well.
Okay.
Jacob Sten Madsen has mentioned that Jim is of the most wacky videos ever made in recruitment, which is an absolute fact. And just while we've got your channel on screen here, you can see I would recommend to anyone have a good look around Jim's YouTube channel. The range of types of videos. And you'll wet yourself laughing as well, if I'm honest, because it's hilarious. And the type of contents that you have, it's an education to anyone who's looking to find out about video. And what you've done is you've organized the content into playlists, as you were mentioning earlier on. Playlists are a bit like playlists of music, where you've got all relevant stuff gathered together. I did want to show you an example. There's a client of ours here. Company called People to People. I'll just refresh the screen. Why is that going?
Okay. People.
It's a small recruitment agency in Melbourne. If the page comes back up for some reason, give me a second. Here we go. And on People to People on their YouTube channel, what you'll see is, and it's gone blank again. On the YouTube channel, they've organized their content into playlists of available jobs. So these are all live vacancies that jobs have been recorded for.
Nice.
So these are all current and live, and the archive that they build up of jobs in the past that they've filled, that all really helps their SEO and lends to the credibility. They've got a playlist of job hunting and interview tips, and again, that re-emphasizes to candidates that we have loads of expertise within the organization, the human beings who really know how to recruit and are working for a great company. So you're sharing value with the candidates by giving it job hunting and interview tips. So it's not just a place to come and see the job advert, but this as well. Career advice. So career advice from experts in the field. Again, it's great when you're looking for that new job. Then this does this. But of course, conversely, what this does is it shows not only candidates, but it shows potential clients that you're a company full of expertise. As Katrina Collier would say, and she's our guest week after next, how to protect yourself, make yourself a robot-proof recruiter. If you do all of these things that emphasize the human aspect of what you do, then candidates love it, clients love it, and of course it makes you more valuable as a recruiter. And again, we've got profiles of the individuals in the organization. And even when you come down to the bottom, a bit of fun, Christmas parties. So all this repository of content demonstrates their expertise, and it's organized in a way that really works for the viewers. It's not just a random collection of all the videos that you've done. You've collected them together. You've thought about how people will want to view your video, and you've put it just there.
This is good, because this is just what candidates are looking for. I mean, people who do their research, this is what they want to know.
Exactly.
So I definitely applaud them for doing this.
Absolutely. Now, anyone who wants to know more about Jim, I would absolutely recommend going to Jim's blog website, jimstroud.com. You'll find everything about Jim over there. I'm going to unshare my screen now, but I think it will run over time a little, as we always do, Jim. Now, coming to the end, I also asked for tips and tricks of the week. That last part on people to people was my tip of the week. Organize your YouTube channel, like you've done, like people to people have done, like organizations all over are learning to do. What would you say your top tip of the week would be in terms of?
Sure. Excuse me. Something really easy. Although we focus a lot on video on Google, you can also post video on Twitter. And one thing that I've done in the past when I was working at Randstad SourceRight was that I made a video promoting the company. I posted it on Twitter, on my Twitter profile. Now, what you can do on Twitter that you can't do on other platforms is that you can input a link inside of the video. So when someone mouses over the video, they can click that link and go wherever. So what I did was, when I did the video, I had a link to our career site. And I said, hey, Randstad's awesome. Come check us out. Mouse over, boom, click, straight
right there.
So from video to the destination.
So I always knew that with an image on Twitter, you could tag people, up to 10 people who are in this picture. Effectively, that's the same thing. You're tagging the video with a link to go wherever you want them to go.
Correct.
That's fantastic. That's brilliant. What's the time limit on the length of video you can put on Twitter? Do you know?
On Twitter, I think it's a little over. I think it's 2 minutes and 20 seconds, something like that.
And LinkedIn, I know, is a hard 10 minutes if you're uploading videos.
Yes, and I definitely would encourage people to put video on LinkedIn, especially now, because it's sort of relatively new. And because LinkedIn wants it to become popular, they give it a little bit more love in their algorithm, I've noticed. So if you post a video and it starts to get a little bit of attention, you really rise up in the algorithm.
Well,
results there.
With the 2 minutes on Twitter, 2 minutes is perfect. In fact, it's the most you should do in terms of a job advert. So if you're putting content out on Twitter, then it's exactly the right length. People are consuming that content. They're discovering content all the time. And Twitter's great for that length. If you were doing a video that was longer than that on even Twitter or LinkedIn, then of course put a link to the fuller video in the comments so that people can then follow up and see that more of the content you want to share. Okay. Yeah. Well, on that, we've gotten to 13 minutes over time.
I'm running my mouth. Can I throw in one last plug before I go?
Yes, please.
You're gracious enough to mention people. They can reach out to me at jimstroud.com, where my blog is. Also, keep in mind, if you would, I am open to new opportunities. My last employer was acquired by Indeed.com, which means that I'm open forever time, and I hate being bored. I just hate it. So I'm very busy. So if you hear of any opportunities in terms of talent attraction, talent acquisition, anything along those lines, or video, reach out to me and we'll talk. Catch me at Jim Stroud at jimstroud.com.
Perfect. Goes without saying that Jim is a pioneer and an expert in this field. So you should have people beating a path to your door, Jim. Jim, you have been the very best guest we have ever had.
Aww.
Now,
that's $20 I owe you right there.
I say that every week, but the thing is each week, the best guest is the one that we've just had. And Jim, you have been an absolute star. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
And a privilege. Next week, our guest next week, our very special guest next week is Matthew Alder of this parish. And Matt will be talking about how to build an audience, as he has done with his podcast, The Recruiting Future. So Matt will be talking about audience building, what it takes to get there, what it takes to keep your audience, and the dangers in losing your audience if you do the wrong thing. So Matt Alder next week, everyone. For today, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Jim. Thanks everyone who has joined us, everyone who's made comments on the side, and thanks everyone who is watching this on replay. We always get a lot of replay of the week. And if you wanted to see any of the previous shows that we have, you can go to the website recruiter.zone, and you'll see all of those videos there, or on the blog of videomyjob.com. So thank you very much again, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Jim.
Ciao.
Adios.